The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence in the kitchen as Emma leaned against the counter, cradling a steaming mug of tea in her hands. The conversation from the previous evening lingered in her mind, a strange mix of curiosity and apprehension swirling within her. Daniel had always been open-minded, one of the things she loved most about him, but this suggestion had caught her completely off guard. Bringing someone else into their relationship, even temporarily, was a concept that felt both foreign and thrilling. She couldn't decide whether she was more intrigued or terrified by the idea. She turned her attention to the window, watching the first rays of sunlight creep over the horizon. The familiar sight brought her a sense of calm, grounding her in the present. She needed to sort through her thoughts before talking to Daniel again. This wasn't something she could brush off as a passing whim. Later that morning, Daniel found her sitting on the couch, flipping idly through a book. He hesitated in the doorway, his expression soft and cautious. "Hey," he said, his voice breaking the quiet. Emma looked up, offering him a small smile. "Hey." He walked over and sat down beside her, leaving just enough space to signal he wouldn't crowd her. "How are you feeling about what we talked about?" Emma set the book aside, folding her hands in her lap. "Honestly, I'm still processing. It's not something I ever thought we'd discuss." "I know," Daniel said, his tone earnest. "And I want you to know I'm not bringing this up because I'm unhappy or because something's missing. I love you, Emma, completely." She nodded, her chest tightening at the sincerity in his voice. "I know you do. And I'm not upset, just surprised." Daniel exhaled, some of the tension easing from his shoulders. "I was afraid you'd think I was crazy." Emma couldn't help but chuckle softly. "You are crazy, but that's part of your charm." He smiled, reaching out to take her hand. "I don't want to rush you into anything. I just wanted to share the idea. And if it's something you're open to exploring, we can figure it out together. If not, we'll drop it. No pressure." Emma looked down at their joined hands, her mind a tangle of thoughts. "I appreciate that. I really do." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation settling between them. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice tentative. "Why now? I mean, why bring this up now?" Daniel hesitated, as if searching for the right words. "I think it's something I've thought about for a while. But I didn't want to bring it up until I felt like we were in a strong enough place to talk about it openly." Emma considered his words, appreciating his honesty. Their marriage had always been built on trust and communication, and she could see how much thought he'd put into this. "And you've already thought about who?" she asked, her cheeks flushing slightly. Daniel nodded, his expression cautious. "There are 2 women I've talked to. Both are interested. But only if you're comfortable. I wouldn't even consider moving forward without you." Emma raised an eyebrow. "You've already talked to them?" "Only in theory," Daniel said quickly. "I didn't make any promises. And I didn't say anything definitive. It was just a conversation." Emma leaned back against the couch, letting out a slow breath. "This is a lot to take in." "I know," Daniel said, squeezing her hand gently. "And I'm not asking you to decide anything right now. Just think about it, that's all." Emma nodded, her thoughts spinning. "Okay, I'll think about it." Over the next few days, Emma found herself returning to the conversation again and again. She replayed Daniel's words in her mind, trying to untangle her feelings. The idea was so far removed from anything she had ever considered. Yet she couldn't deny the flicker of curiosity it sparked. What would it feel like to see Daniel with someone else? Could she handle it? Would it bring them closer or create cracks in their relationship? Her thoughts were interrupted one afternoon when Daniel walked into the kitchen with a hesitant smile. "I was thinking, if you're up for it, we could meet them, just to talk. No pressure." Emma set down the dish she was washing, turning to face him. "Meet them?" "Yeah," Daniel said. "I think it might help you get a better sense of things. No commitments. No expectations, just a casual meeting." Emma hesitated, her heart racing. The idea of meeting the 2 women who had already discussed being part of something so intimate, felt surreal. But maybe it was the next step she needed to take to figure out how she truly felt. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's do it." The evening of the meeting, Emma felt a knot of nerves tighten in her stomach as she got ready. She stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down her dress and trying to calm the butterflies that seemed to have taken up permanent residence in her chest. "You look amazing," Daniel said, stepping into the room and wrapping his arms around her from behind. Emma met his gaze in the mirror, a small smile tugging at her lips. "You always know what to say." "I mean it," he said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "And I'm proud of you for even considering this. It means a lot to me." Emma nodded, her nerves easing slightly at his reassurance. "Let's see how this goes." The restaurant Daniel chose was quiet and intimate, the kind of place that felt perfect for a casual but meaningful conversation. When Emma and Daniel arrived, they were greeted by Sophia and Ava, two women who were both strikingly beautiful but carried themselves with a warmth that immediately put Emma at ease. Sophia had a sharp, confident demeanor, her dark hair swept into an elegant bun. Ava, on the other hand, had a softer presence, her smile wide and inviting as she reached out to shake Emma's hand. "It's so nice to meet you," Sophia said, her voice smooth and friendly. "Daniel's told us so much about you. All good things, I hope," Emma replied with a nervous laugh. "Of course," Ava said, her tone light. "He's clearly crazy about you." The four of them settled into the booth, and the conversation flowed surprisingly easily. They talked about their jobs, their hobbies, and even shared a few embarrassing stories about Daniel. By the time the entrees arrived, Emma found herself relaxing in their company, the initial tension fading into the background. As the evening unfolded, Emma felt her nerves begin to dissolve. Sophia and Ava were surprisingly easy to talk to, each of them bringing a unique energy to the conversation. Sophia's confidence shone through in the way she carried herself, her sharp wit and teasing remarks adding a playful edge to the dinner. Ava, on the other hand, had a warmth that made Emma feel instantly at ease, her laughter light and genuine. "So, Emma," Ava began, leaning forward slightly, "how are you feeling about all of this? Be honest." Emma blinked, caught off guard by the directness of the question. She glanced at Daniel, who gave her a reassuring smile. Then back at Ava. "Honestly, it's a lot to process. This isn't something I ever thought I'd be considering." Sophia nodded, her expression softening. "That's completely fair. It's a big step, and it's not for everyone. We're just glad you're open to having this conversation." Emma appreciated their understanding. She had been worried that this meeting would feel forced or awkward. But instead, it felt like an exchange of mutual curiosity and respect. For the first time since Daniel had brought up the idea, she allowed herself to imagine what this could actually look like. As the dinner continued, Emma found herself drawn to the way Daniel interacted with Sophia and Ava. He was charming and attentive, but always careful to keep Emma involved in the conversation. His respect for her boundaries was evident, and it made her feel secure even as they navigated this uncharted territory. At one point, Ava reached out and placed a hand lightly on Emma's arm. "You're handling this so well," she said, her voice full of admiration. "I know it can't be easy." Emma smiled, touched by her sincerity. "Thank you. I'm just trying to take it one step at a time." By the time the check arrived, Emma felt a strange mix of relief and excitement. The evening had gone far better than she had expected, and though there were still plenty of questions swirling in her mind, she felt more open to the idea than ever before. The next morning, Emma woke with a sense of calm she hadn't felt in weeks. She replayed the dinner in her mind, analyzing every moment, every word. Sophia and Ava had been kind and thoughtful, and seeing Daniel interact with them had been enlightening. She wasn't sure she fully understood her feelings yet, but she knew one thing for certain: she trusted Daniel. As they sipped coffee together on the back patio, Daniel broke the silence. "So, how do you feel after last night?" Emma hesitated, searching for the right words. I feel more comfortable with the idea." "They were great. And you?" She trailed off, her cheeks flushing slightly. "You seemed happy." Daniel reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I am happy, Emma, but none of this matters if you're not on board. Your feelings are the most important to me." Emma squeezed his hand, her heart swelling at his words. "I appreciate that, and I think I'm ready to take the next step." Daniel's eyes lit up, a mixture of excitement and gratitude. Are you sure? We can take as much time as you need. I'm sure, Emma said, her voice steady, but we need to set some boundaries. I need to feel like we're in this together. Of course, Daniel said quickly, whatever you need to feel comfortable. They spent the next few hours talking through the details, discussing everything from timing to communication to how they would handle any potential challenges. By the time they were finished, Emma felt a renewed sense of clarity. This wasn't just about Daniel's desires, it was about their relationship and their willingness to explore something new together. A week later, Emma found herself standing in front of the bedroom mirror, adjusting the hem of her dress. Her heart raced as she glanced at the clock. Knowing Sophia and Ava would be arriving any moment, she took a deep breath, reminding herself of the conversations she and Daniel had shared over the past few days. They were in this together, and that was all that mattered. When the doorbell rang, Emma's stomach flipped. Daniel answered it, greeting Sophia and Ava warmly before leading them into the living room. Emma followed, her nerves dissolving slightly when she saw their familiar smiles. You look beautiful, Ava said, her eyes lighting up as she took in Emma's appearance. Thank you, Emma replied, feeling a flush of warmth at the compliment. The four of them settled onto the couch, the atmosphere light and relaxed as they chatted over glasses of wine. The conversation flowed easily, just as it had during their first meeting. But there was an unspoken tension in the air, a sense of anticipation that lingered just beneath the surface. Eventually, Sophia leaned back, her gaze shifting between Emma and Daniel. So, she said, her tone playful, where do we go from here? Emma glanced at Daniel, who gave her a small, reassuring nod. Taking a deep breath, she turned back to Sophia and Ava. I think, I'd like to see what this is like. Together. Sophia's smile widened, her expression warm. We'd love that. Ava reached out, her hand lightly brushing against Emma's. Only if you're comfortable. Emma nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. I am. The rest of the evening unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. There was no rush, no pressure. Just a gradual build of trust and connection as the four of them explored this new dynamic together. Emma felt a mixture of nervousness and exhilaration. But as the night went on, she found herself letting go of her doubts and embracing the moment. She watched as Daniel interacted with Sophia and Ava, their laughter filling the room as they shared stories and playful teasing. There was something freeing about seeing him in this new light, his charm and confidence shining through in a way that made her heart swell with pride. When Ava leaned in to kiss Daniel, Emma held her breath, her chest tightening as she watched the scene unfold. But instead of jealousy, she felt a strange sense of liberation, an acknowledgement of the trust and openness they had built together. Ava turned to Emma, her smile soft and inviting. May I? Emma hesitated for only a moment before nodding, her heart racing as Ava leaned in to kiss her. The touch was gentle and tender, a spark of electricity igniting between them. Emma felt a rush of emotions, curiosity, excitement, and a sense of connection she hadn't anticipated. As the evening continued, the four of them moved together in a rhythm that felt natural and unforced. Every touch, every kiss was a reflection of the trust and respect they had for one another, creating an atmosphere of intimacy that was both exhilarating and deeply meaningful. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains, bathing the room in a soft, golden glow. Emma blinked awake, her body wrapped in the warm cocoon of the comforter. Daniel lay beside her, his arm draped protectively across her waist. The events of the previous night replayed in her mind like a vivid dream. She turned to face him, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest as he slept. For a moment, she wondered if he felt as changed as she did. The experience had been so intimate, so freeing, yet it had also pushed her beyond boundaries she never thought she'd explore. Emma shifted slightly, careful not to wake Daniel, and let her thoughts wander. The night hadn't been without its challenges, there were moments of vulnerability, flashes of self-doubt, but those were outweighed by the overwhelming sense of trust and connection that had emerged. Sophia and Ava had been everything Emma could have hoped for, patient, kind, and respectful. Their presence had enhanced the experience, making it feel less like an experiment and more like a shared journey. And Daniel, His care and attentiveness throughout the night had reaffirmed everything she loved about him. Later that morning, Emma and Daniel sat together on the back patio, sipping coffee in comfortable silence. The birds chirped softly in the trees, and the crisp morning air carried the scent of blooming flowers. It was the kind of peaceful moment Emma cherished. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "How are you feeling?" Emma glanced at him, her lips curling into a soft smile. "Good. A little overwhelmed, maybe, but good." Daniel nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I know it was a lot. I just want to make sure you're okay." "I am," Emma said, reaching out to place her hand over his. "And I'm glad we did it. It was different, but it felt right, like we were doing something together, not apart." Daniel's eyes softened, and he gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "That's all I wanted, for this to be something we shared. I never wanted you to feel like you were on the outside looking in." Emma nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I didn't. If anything, it made me feel closer to you. Like we've unlocked a new part of our relationship." They sat in silence for a moment, letting the words settle between them. Emma could see the relief in Daniel's expression, the tension easing from his shoulders. She knew he had worried about how the experience would affect their marriage, and it felt good to reassure him. "What about you?" Emma asked, her gaze searching his. "How do you feel?" Daniel hesitated, a small smile playing on his lips. "Honestly, I feel the same way. Closer to you, more connected. It wasn't just about the experience, it was about us." Emma's heart fluttered at his words, and she felt a sense of peace wash over her. They had taken a risk, stepped into the unknown, and come out stronger on the other side. In the days that followed, life began to settle back into its usual rhythm. Emma returned to work, tackling deadlines and meetings with a renewed sense of focus. Daniel busied himself with his projects, his creativity flourishing in the wake of their shared experience. But something had shifted between them. There was a newfound openness in their conversations, a deeper level of trust that made Emma feel more secure than ever before. They talked about everything, about their feelings, their fears, and what the experience had taught them about themselves and each other. One evening, as they lay together in bed, Emma turned to Daniel, her voice soft. "Do you think we'll ever do it again?" Daniel smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I think we should take it one step at a time. We don't have to decide anything right now." Emma nodded, comforted by his response. "I just want to make sure we're always on the same page. That we're doing this together. Always," Daniel said, his voice firm. "That's the only way this works." Emma leaned into him, her heart swelling with affection. She felt a sense of clarity, a realization that their marriage was built on a foundation strong enough to weather anything. Months later, Emma found herself reflecting on how much she had grown. The experience with Daniel, Sophia, and Ava had been more than just a moment of exploration. It had been a journey of self-discovery. She had learned to embrace her desires, to communicate openly, and to trust in the strength of her relationship. She and Daniel hadn't revisited the idea since that night, but they didn't need to. The experience had served its purpose, deepening their connection and opening new doors of possibility. Whether or not they chose to explore those doors again was secondary to the trust and love they had built. One crisp autumn evening, Emma and Daniel stood on their patio, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, the air carrying the faint scent of wood smoke. Emma turned to Daniel, her heart full. "I'm grateful for you," she said softly, "for everything we've shared." Daniel wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "And I'm grateful for you. You're my everything, Emma." As they stood together, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, Emma felt a profound sense of peace. They had ventured into the unknown and emerged stronger, more united than ever before. Whatever the future held, she knew they would face it together, hand in hand, with love as their guide.